Level 11? What if there's a decimal in the equation? I know what you're probably going to do, and I have a picture of it there. Go ahead and make this the title on the next page in your math notebook. When you have done that, stop panicking, close your notebook, concentrate. I promise it'll be okay. All right. So before you panic too hard, we have already occasionally seen decimals or fractions in the solution to an equation. Not that bad. So like this one, if you were to solve this, you look at this like, oh, I know how to do that. I can use the inverse operation strategy, and I can subtract 1, and I can get 4x equals 1. And then I can divide by 4. And oh my gosh, 1 divided by 4, what do I do? Don't panic. You just divide 1 divided by 4. You can do it. This isn't elementary school. You can do 1 divided by 4, and you might get a decimal, and that's okay. Decimals are numbers, and it's okay for them to be there, and you don't need to panic every time you see them. So what if there's decimals in the equation? Here we go, right? You're going to see this, and you're going to see decimals, and you're going to panic like Kermit over here. Non-necessary. It's actually not that bad, though it can be intimidating. So what do we do? So first thing, I want to start drawing this. And I can't concentrate with the panic. Get rid of it. It'll be on the next one too. I can't draw this. Like, how do I draw 2 3/10 of an x? You may have a creative way to do that if you really love the drawing strategy and you say, oh, I can do this. I can draw 2 whole negative x's and like a part of 1, like a 3/10 of an x. I don't do it. When there's decimals in the equation, one of the reasons I love to show you 2 strategies for this is that there are times when this one's much easier and clearer, and there are times when this one's much easier and clearer. This is a time that the inverse operation strategy is just much easier to do. I'm not even going to recommend using the visual strategy at all in this level. You can, if you're creative and you have a good thing going with the visual and you can imagine how to draw this, go for it. I'm not telling you you can't. I'm just going to tell you I'm not going to. Because the inverse operation strategy, guess what? When you look at an equation with decimals in it, guess what's different in the inverse operation strategy? Nothing. Absolutely nothing's different. If I write this down, with my inverse operation strategy set up, this is just like any other equation. I'm going to look at my x and say, well, what's happening to it? 2 things. 1, it's being multiplied by negative 2 3/10. The inverse of that is dividing by negative 2 3/10. And 6 1/10 is being subtracted. The inverse of that is adding 6 1/10. Not really a big deal and not really any different than before. Still going to do them in the same order. Add and subtract first, multiply and divide second. So if x has 6 1/10 being subtracted from it, the inverse of that is to add 6 1/10 to it. Add 6 1/10 on the other side. I could figure this out with a number line or anything else, but calculator is going to speed me up. So I'm just going to do that. Let's see. I don't know how to do now. Oh, there it is. Negative 3 49/100. I think I have to do negative now on this calculator. There we go. Plus 6 1/10 is positive. I know it's going to be positive because the positive is more than the negative. 2 61/100. That made 0. This is still there. Okay, now I've done this. Second step is to undo the multiply and division. X is being multiplied by negative 2 3/10. The inverse of that is to divide by negative 2 3/10. Divide by negative 2 3/10. This is going to be real close to negative 1. It's pretty much 2.5 divided by negative 2.5. It's going to be really close. And again, I'm just going to punch it in. 2 61/100 divided by 2 3/10 negative is right about -1, like I thought. I'm just going to end this after 2 decimal places. I'll make a symbol to that I'm rounding. So I'm just going to say x is approximately, squiggly equal sign means approximately, -1 13/100. And that's it. I did everything I normally do. I just used a calculator to deal with the decimals, and no big deal. It's really nothing to panic about, even though I get it if you want to. Let's do one together. Open up your math notebook, and let's write this one down. Unpause when you're ready. Highly recommend somewhere on your page writing "Don't panic." Panicking is not going to help. Panicking is not the solution. And you don't need to. It's not that bad. Decimals are not that big of a deal. And I don't want you to panic when you see them. Okay? Next thing to write down, visual strategy. Not recommended. Sorry, I got an alarm going off. Not recommended unless you just totally love it. If you do, if you love this strategy and you want to come up with a clever way to represent those decimals, go ahead. I'm not going to, but be my guest. And the inverse operation strategy is the same as always. It's just no big deal. Let's write it down. 18 77/100 equals -3 2/10 x plus 50. Here we go. The only difference is if you're accustomed to doing these with no calculator, because the whole numbers are easy for you, here you'll do it with a calculator. That's it. No big deal. So when we look at this, same steps as always, right? 50 is being added to x. 3 2/10 is being multiplied by x. We undo the add and subtract first. Take 50 away from both sides. Take 50 away from both sides. What's 18 77/100 minus 50? I don't know. I could figure it out with no calculator, but that's not my goal for you here today. My goal for you here today is just to not panic on these equations and solve them with a calculator. 18 77/100 minus 50 is that. Makes sense. It's about 20 minus about 50 is about -30. Those made 0. Now x is being multiplied by -3 2/10. I'm going to divide it by -3 2/10. Should be what, about 10, I'm guessing, because this is about -30 divided by about -3. Should be about +10. Before I draw that equal sign, remember I'm probably going to round. So I'm going to do x is about, squiggly equal sign. X is roughly, means I'm rounding, divided by 3 2/10 negative. And it's about 10, just like I thought. About 9 76/100 if I round it. You could have wrote that whole thing out. That's fine too. But that's it. It's really not that bad. So don't worry about decimals when you see them. Don't panic and treat them the same way. If you did panic, if when you saw that first decimal, your whole brain shut down and you've been having a panic attack and not heard a word I said, pause here, go back, give it another watch. I promise it'll be okay. But if after this I've helped you realize, oh, I already know how to do these same old strategies, then you're all set, and I'll see you on the next one.